quit university. You left. Oh, Siri! Sorry. Jesus. What's the deal? It's a question that many older generation Singaporeans have asked the young people of Singapore, and today we are going to answer them. What's the deal? It's an initiative by the National Youth Council as part of the Youth Action Challenge Summit. Yes, Mum and Dad, I'm still a youth! We have gathered a bunch of young people in Singapore to come together and give us their burning questions for the road ahead. Questions like, when is it a good time for me to leave university? How do I convince my parents that climate change is real? And the big key phrase of this current era, how do I pivot? How do I adjust to the new normal? We're going to answer all those questions and more on What's the Deal? Joining us in the studio today is Andrea Chong. Andrea is an all-around badass person. She's an entrepreneur, social media influencer. She's also the founder of DC Edit, which is a platform for writers to talk about everything from lifestyle to beauty to business, how to tie my shoes. They're Velcro though, so I can't do that article. But thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
I want to get right to it. You took the road less traveled. You left university halfway.
And my final year,
In your final year,
actually.
1/3. And you were taking a major in literature, right?
Yes.
And you left. At the point of making that decision, how sure were you that you were making the right call?
I don't think it was a situation where I was like, okay, am I doing the right thing? It just felt right at that point in time. I'm also a very spontaneous, I trust my gut feeling person. I started working from year 2. So by year 4, work was starting to take over schoolwork. And in school, I was facing very trivial details like your project mates fighting with you over which PowerPoint slide must I take. And I've just felt that
This is beneath me.
No, not really. It's just once you've been exposed to kind of like the real world situations or real jobs, that honestly doesn't matter. And it felt to me that the opportunity cost to stay in school for another year would be quite high, and I would rather focus on my career. And I just decided, you know what, I'm not gonna pick my courses for this semester. And the school was like, if you're not gonna pick your courses, we're gonna deem you
Non-essential.
yeah, like you're basically not gonna be a student anymore. And I was like, okay.
Wow. I think what I love about that story is that, as badass as it was, like you did the math, you know what I mean? You kind of weighed the decision, and I guess you're not a very risk-averse person, are you? You kind of like watch where you're going, and you made a very calculated decision on that front. Is that fair to say? Or there was still some risk involved, obviously.
I'm definitely not a risk-adverse person. I, like to take risks. I like to kind of like be very spontaneous. I like to jump the gun. On hindsight, I feel like, it's also kind of like the person that you are. If you are willing to make this work, regardless of whether or not you have a degree or not, then you basically let that fear drive you and motivate you,
Yeah. At that point when you were feeling said fear, did you already identify where your passions lie in terms of the road ahead, the kind of work you wanted to do? Did you already know then what kind of empire you were going to build in the future?
I kind of had an inkling, right? And I really enjoyed what I did, and I really enjoy what I do. It's just that my role has kind of evolved from being kind of, the face or the talent, and now we work on, being like a media site, a production house, and also, doing a lot of the production and the behind the scenes as well, which is what I love to do. I love to create, I love to produce, and yeah.
Let's talk a bit about that. And I want to also talk about social media influencers. Yes, that wonderful word. Very interestingly, there was a study done in The Sun, and they reported that 75% of youths today aspire to be full-time professional YouTubers, TikTokers, influencers. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's real. I see that from my younger brother, and he's 7.
He's going to be a TikToker.
Okay, not TikToker yet, But more, he wants to be on YouTube. Like, he'll say things like and click and subscribe. I always believe you have to follow your passions. There's nothing wrong with being a content creator or a YouTuber or a TikToker. Whatever you do, so long as it adds value to someone's life, so long as you're using your platform meaningfully, I don't see why that's a big problem lah. I mean, if you're able to be a good person and earn money while being a content creator, there's nothing wrong with that.
Did you ever have to have that conversation with your parents here?
Not really. I've never really had that conversation. Because it didn't come across to me as I want to be a content creator or I want to be an influencer. What I did was I really enjoyed, what I'm doing, writing, publishing like articles on my blog. It's getting me jobs, it's earning me money. And I think my parents saw that as well. So when the conversation came up about me leaving university, they were like, "Are you still in university? Ah?" And then I was like, actually no, I'm not. And then they were like, okay, yeah. I guess to them it was, I think so long as parents have I can't say for all parents, but I think as long as you're able to give your parents that kind of like assurance or like to show them that you're a responsible human being, I think that's all that matters to them.
That's really what they're looking for, especially Asian parents. The assurance that it's a viable career form. And again, I think in a Swiss Army knife like industry like ours, where you're not just taking pictures, you're writing. You're telling stories. You're trying to affect change in the community. You're doing so many different things. You're juggling so many different mediums. It's hard for people who don't understand the nature of the job to give it the credit it's due.
Right. For sure. I mean, especially our parents will be like, what? Like, you can actually earn money. Like, up to today, people ask me, how do you earn money off social media? And, everyone is still grappling with how does someone earn a living or create a company out of social media. And I just basically explain it to them, look, basically we are kind of the new form of media, right? Think of us as like a media house. We have sales, we have photographers, we have videographers, we have writers, everybody coming together to produce content that will be meaningful to our readers and our followers.
What would you say to a young person who is on the brink of graduation, just about to enter the workforce, and they're not quite sure of the journey they're supposed to take, and it's all been exacerbated by this unprecedented situation of COVID-19, where jobs are a bit more scarce? What kind of advice would you give?
I think definitely to be innovative and find your passion. It's very easy to say be innovative and find your passion, but it will take years. To which I will also say try everything. Before I was a social media influencer, I did not even know how to operate a DSLR. I feel that, I've encountered a lot of people who are like, I don't want to learn, or I don't want to, this is not what I do, or this is not something that I want to dabble in. And then I'll be like, I feel that you need to definitely try new things in order to explore who you are as a person.
I love that sentiment, because the advent of social media and these tools basically gives you a way out of sometimes an unsolvable situation. For example, we talk about how there's equal opportunity and there's time to explore. Some people might not have that because of financial limitations, or maybe, as you said, they don't know their passion or where they lie or where their interests lie. And I think a really interesting point that you raised was that you need to take that chance, right? I mean, you took a chance by leaving university. I think my question is, when do you know when you're approaching that fork of the road, right? When do you know it's the right decision to pivot in your career? For example, would you ever even consider pivoting at this point of your career, or maybe doing something new or learning something new? And when do you know that's the right time to make that decision?
I feel that I'm always open to learning, and I'm always open to trying new things. Whether or not I will make a career change at this point, maybe not, because I have my team. And if I tell them that I'm changing my job, they'll be like, what?
To get a change!
Everybody change!
Going to
yeah.
Pharmaceuticals.
And I feel like, at what I'm doing with the DC Edit, we have a specific goal in mind, and what we want to grow the DC Edit into. Initially, DC Edit was known as andreachong.com. And that was basically my branding, my name. And I abandoned it totally to start a new website called the DC Edit, DC with my initials. And it was really tough because advertisers would be like, hey, we're very used to andreachong.com. You know, why do we need to advertise on DC Edit? Or, you know, andreachong.com has already a name for itself, and you are just throwing it away or letting it go for a new website that no one knows. But to me, I felt that it was a change that was essential for the company to grow, because we are limited to what andreachong.com can only do. It's only me, it's only one face, right? But with the DC Edit, we can have writers, contributors, we can have a bigger team that can contribute to a media site that stands alone from me and that can grow on its own. So that was really tough, honestly, and it's still tough because right now we are a young site that's trying to rebrand and grow, and the social media trends back then may not be relevant now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's also like a learning process for me, and it's a big learning curve. It's pretty much going back down to started from the bottom, now we're here, you know, again. Yeah.
That was an amazing session, and we're just going to wrap up with one final question. I guess, what would you say to youths who are ready to take on the road less traveled and explore new frontiers?
Interestingly, I had a conversation with our Minister of Education, Mr. Ong Yi Kang, and you know, we were also talking about how graduates can find meaning during this COVID situation, because a lot of them are having trouble finding jobs, even finding internships, because everybody's on a hiring freeze, right? And the advice he gave was to take on activities or take on opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't have. You know, all your other friends are going through internships, but could you do something philanthropic? Could you do something charity related? Could you start your own initiative? You know, I feel like with social media and with the internet, it's so easy to start your own thing. And the moment you try something new, that gives you kind of like an edge.
Thanks, Drea. Thanks for being here. That's
Thank
awesome.
you for having me.